Next, let's work on this one. Find an artifact by ID. This is a little bit different because beside this endpoint, we also have something called a path variable. So for example, we can have /artifacts /1000001. That's the ID of an artifact. Once the server receives this endpoint request, and we can find one from database and return to the client. This is the agreed upon response. There is flag, code, message, and data has only one artifact. So now let's go to IntelliJ and implement this API. All right, so first, we know this is also a get mapping. And the URL is similar, artifacts. And there is a path variable, artifact ID. Then let's define the function. Public. The return type is always result. Find by ID. Then how do we get this path variable? Now, unlike find all, in find all, there is no input. We simply just return find all, right? But here, we have to find by ID. That means we have to give a formal parameter to find by ID. And where is the ID? It's right here. It's the path variable. Then how do we retrieve the path variable? Spring Boot provides an easier way to do it. We're using an annotation called add path variable to annotate a formal parameter. Add path variable string artifact ID. When the request comes in, Spring will automatically retrieve this artifact ID and assign it to this artifact ID. So this greatly saves programmers a lot of time because this is really easy to retrieve path variable. All you need to do is have this annotation. Okay, next is the same thing. Controller is going to invoke service. Service is going to invoke DAO. The DAO part, the DAO layer is done, right? So we only need to program controller and service. But now we got stuck because there's no find by ID method in service. So if I do artifact service dot, all we have is find all. We do not have find by ID. So let's create this method. Now we're in service, and service is going to use artifact DAO. Remember, by extending JPA repository in DAO, we got those methods for free. So artifact DAO dot find by ID. And there's error here. It says cannot return a value from a method with void result type. Okay, so let's change this to artifact because really find by ID returns an instance of artifact. Still not happy? Okay, so artifact DAO.find by ID by default returns optional. Optional is a type introduced in Java 8. Okay, so we use it to avoid telling it is null or not. Okay, and the required type is artifact. That's fine. So here we're going to use dot get. As you can see, we also have or else get. Okay, but this time just using get. All right, then get will return the right type. Okay, let's go back to artifact controller. Well, of course, we can do the same thing in find all, assign it to a variable, then create a new instance and return. But I'm very lazy. I want to do everything in one line. So cut. Just return new result. Okay. The result requires 4 parameters. So if you forget what must be returned, let's go back to Swagger. Always read your API documentation. True, 200, find one success, and the 4th one is the payload. Okay. True, status, code.success, find one success, and paste. Okay, so that's the instance. That's all. That's all for this API. So let's test it. But this time, we're going to test it in Postman. All right, so let's start my application. Now remember, every time I click the start, this guy here, an instance of this class will be created. And we're going to have 6 artifacts that are inserted into H2 database. Oh, I forgot to show you the console of H2. So this time, let me show you the console so we can see what is really in the table. All right? Okay, run it. Okay. So it's launching. Starting, no problem. Okay, good. Okay, first, let's test it in Postman. Then I will show you H2 database console, okay? I have already downloaded Postman and installed on my Mac. So now I open it. This is what it looks like. So first, let's create a new request. And let's give this request a name. Let's call this find an artifact by ID. And you can have an optional description. And then let's create a collection to hold all my requests. Let's call this Hogwarts artifacts online. Okay. As you can see here, if I click, we can make all kinds of HTTP requests. Now the familiar ones are get, post, put, patch, delete, and we also have head, options, and so on and so forth. But the most popular ones are the first 5. Okay, and then here is our URL, localhost. Make sure you have the complete path 8080. Our URL is, if you forget, I have a bad memory, so let's go to Swagger. Okay, so it's this guy here. Okay, artifacts, then artifact ID. Okay, now before I go there, let me copy one ID. Okay, so let's see, we're gonna find denominator. Okay, so copy this ID, copy, and then go to Postman, artifacts. So this part here is the REST API endpoint. Okay, so it has artifacts, and this is the path variable. Okay, and other than that, we have no authorization. We don't have to include any header. Body is empty, and this is get. Okay, everything's good. All right, so let's send. We got error. So could not get any response. Artifacts. Oh, localhost. Okay, typo. So send. So we got this response. As you can see, flag, code, message, and data. All right, so the takeaway point here is don't have a typo, okay? Make sure you type localhost correctly. All right, okay, let's also try another one. We have this one, so we can save it. Let's create a new one. Let me copy this. And it's in the same folder. Okay, let's call this find all. Find all artifacts. Now this time we have find all. Okay, it's also get and send. Now this time we have find all returned. The good thing about Postman is the returned value, or the response, is formatted. So there are 4 properties. Okay, and we got 6 artifacts in JSON. Very beautiful JSON, right? Okay, next, let me show you H2 database. Remember, when you launch it, H2 database is created and we insert 6 data into it, right? So let's look at what H2 look like. And you can access H2 database console through browser. Okay, localhost 8080. Now this time we're gonna type H2 console, okay? This database is running on localhost 8080. So it's running on the same server, quote server, because this server is really my localhost machine of your application, right? And everything is, the default one is good, so just connect. All right, so this is H2 database console. As you can see right now, there is one table called artifact. Okay, if you expand it, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 properties. And here I can write SQL. Okay, for example, select asterisk from artifact. Run it. Okay, we got all the 6 artifacts. As you can see, column 1, column 2, column 3. Your favorite table, right? Relational database. So the whole point of using H2 is, think about this. In previous projects, in my homeworks, in order to get it to work, you have to download MySQL and change database.properties. But here, by default, as a developer, you have access to this database and no need to enter username and password because this is not production, it's only development. So we shouldn't put a lot of obstacles for a beginner to start an application. So I really like this, and I highly recommend you use H2 in development. Later on, when you are ready to release, you're going to change Spring Boot's data source from H2 to a solid and a beefy relational database like MySQL or Oracle.